You're listening to The Donor Doctor Show, where your host, James Newberry, will help you improve the health of your fundraising. Now over to James.
Hello, this is The Donor Doctor, and I'm with Mike Brown of RAINDROP Technologies. He is an expert on texting, and I know a lot of people have written me and said, why don't you talk about texting? So here we are, we're doing it. Now, Mike, you're not the same Mike Brown that I interviewed earlier. He was a high-dollar guy.
No, it's a very common name. There's a few of us out there.
Yes, it is. Now, one of the things I said when I met him was, don't make your fundraiser a fundraiser, meaning that a lot of events end up not being as profitable as you expect if you're not careful on the costs and think about that. But really, when we're talking about texting or any kind of thing, it's not just about raising funds. It's about advancing your candidate or your cause. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes, definitely, and that's what we do with Raindrop is we do text messaging, text polling, and text fundraising all together.
Well, very good. Now, we met at CPAC recently, and I thought that event that we met at, it was a Draft Sheriff Clark. I thought it was a very successful event, but it wasn't a fundraiser, really. I mean, he lost money. I helped my friend out, Jack. But he did a lot of the things that you would want at a successful event. He had celebrities there, the dog, from that TV show. He had a contest. Contests are great. We talk about that all the time. He had free drinks. I mean, who could that's obviously a draw. And I don't know if he texted, but I know he sent an email. He might have texted too. And there was also, when you joined, it was like a standalone. He had a standalone ad about the reception. So I thought it was quite good. Now you say, well, you lost money on the event. Well, he got great pictures with the sheriff and him and the dog and the dog's wife. I forget her name. So it was a successful event, and that's the way I would look at it, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's where I met you at the sign-up booth, and I think that it came up because I asked, if you guys use texting, or I believe I asked if there was a phone number, box on the sign-up sheet, because a lot of groups don't include that. So, but yeah, it was very, very well attended. It was a packed house, and
the press too. I forgot the press also. You had several news outlets there. So it created kind of so if you draft committees kind of have people are a little bit unsure of them. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't know exactly what you're giving to. So I think credibility is even more important. Draft committees have not as a recent phenomenon, really. I don't know if you know this, but Barry Goldwater, that was a draft committee. So they go way back. But people are still a little nervous about them. So it's very important that you have your ducks in a row and look like you're a professional.
Yeah. And one thing also with when you chose the winner of the bobblehead, I know there was a little, not confusion, but just trying to get the sheets of all the people that signed up. And that's one thing that we incorporate is we have a randomizer within our tools where you can just pick random winners and send them a text, and just kind of eliminates any potential for error. So that's
that would have been
definitely
helpful.
can be implemented. Yep.
That would have been. The bobblehead was very popular. I forget who won it, but there were two bobbleheads, as I recall. Now, how did you get into fundraising?
Yeah, well, I've been in collaboration with grassroots activists, since 2009 and 2011. I helped form a group here in Utah that was grassroots oriented, conservative cause. But also just seeing how texting can help with nonprofit groups or campaigns, how the left utilizes it and how conservative causes can use it. That's why I helped form RAINDROP Technologies in 2013.
Now, you say the left, they're much more successful at this, aren't they? That's my understanding.
Definitely, yeah. They've been doing it for a long time. Obama had a famous fundraiser with George Clooney where people texted in to enter to win a ticket to an event to meet him, and that was in 2008. And
again,
over and over, a lot of these groups.
Again, a contest, though. People love contests. I signed up with Bernie, and I get a lot of texts from them. So I know what you're talking about. Now, I have a New York Times article. It's a couple years ago, but I'd like to read it and tell me if things are changing or what you agree with or don't agree with.
Okay.
Candidates, this is the New York Times, 2015. Candidates have experimented with text messages for years. President Obama's 2008 campaign tried to announce his vice presidential choice by text, though news organizations beat him to it. In 2012, his campaign amassed about 1 million cell phone numbers, and an aide recalled never set up a campaign team to exploit them. That's a mistake, because he was pretty strong on his anyway, I'll go back to the article. A text is almost a sacred thing, says Vince Harris, the director of Mr. Paul. This is Ron Paul's campaign. The space is reserved for your closest friends, your family, people who know you well enough to have your number and bypass a voicemail or email. I think it's taken several years for the electorate to warm up to this. Then he talks about Bob McDonnell, the Virginia governor. He had a contest where you get free tickets to the Redskins games, but people didn't want to give up their phone number for that. Another thing they like about text is, above all, candidates are texting to build crowds, which in turn helps generate news media coverage that is like oxygen to the more than 20 candidates. It was talking about the presidential race. As Mr. Sanders toured the West Coast recently, supporters at each stop received text ahead of time promoting his appearance. More than 27,000 turned out in Los Angeles. What gives texting its political power is its ability to cut through a lot of advertising noise, targeted posts on Facebook, Twitter, web video commercials, and emails pleading for campaign contributions. A text message, by contrast, offers the nearest thing a candidate can get to ensuring that a message will be opened and read. Texting is also especially for younger voters. Now, would you agree with that article, I assume?
Yeah, definitely. There's some things I agree with in there. And when it talks about, how a text is a sacred thing, I don't know if that's true much anymore. I think people have definitely warmed up to texting, and you can see that with the last presidential campaign. I mean, both Ted Cruz and Donald Trump utilized texting in their campaigns. So the right is starting to warm up to it more. And definitely when it talks about, ensuring that your message will be read, that's definitely true. 98% of texts are read, so it's the most direct.
Well, it's interesting, though. I had a funeral recently where I had to text people because there was a change, the weather. And I think you're right about people under 50 or even under 60, 98%. But some older people don't read texts, don't get them or don't read them. I don't know which one.
Yeah, it just depends. A lot of it doesn't always follow that. I mean, our CEO, she's almost 60 herself, and she's very much into social media.
No, I mean, most are, but I'm just saying, I would say a lower percentage among over 70.
Yeah, over 70, I'd say. One thing that I always tell people is, because every candidate, every cause, has a Facebook page, Twitter handle. They promote those heavily. Well, more people can text than that are on Twitter. Older people, even if you have an old school flip phone, you can receive a text. So it's definitely more universal.
Oh, no, I love texting. I love texting. I mean, I'm totally with you. Now, it says one thing in here that texts are more expensive than email. They're obviously a lot cheaper than direct mail. They say 50,000 texts might cost $500. Is that around right?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. It can cost 2 to 5 cents per text. Obviously, if you have more, it can be closer to that 1 cent per text. But like you said, I mean, comparative to direct mail, it's far cheaper. And when you're looking at read rates,
it's much higher.
Email.
Yeah,
email 20%. So if you're lucky, it's
and it's going down. I mean, the thing about email that's a problem is there's so many emails. The email open rate's gone down continually. It's interesting. I've heard about people that have gone back to direct mail because there is less mail out there. That that converted email. So just the importance of standing out and texts are still not done as much.
And you know what? A lot of our clients, it's not like texting is meant to replace all these other modes of communication. It's only there to enhance them and supplement them. For example, you go to most websites and you have a box to sign up for an email newsletter. Well, why not add a box to capture the phone number, and then they receive a text right away? And then, a lot of our clients use texting as the vehicle to drive people to their website or to their Facebook page, because if they're going to read the text, why not use that as the first mode of communication and then push them and increase your read rates for your newsletter? So that's one way to look at it.
I was talking to a pastor recently, and he said the church had a problem was that their youth group, it was based on emails, but the young people didn't read their emails. They were all text-based.
Yeah.
So I guess what do they need to do? Go back and get everybody's phone number, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I know in my local congregation, our church leader, he's very involved with the youth, and that's the main way they communicate, and it's so quick and easy via text. I mean, that's just the simple way to do it these days. So yeah, any church, I mean, you got to use the method that the kids are using, and that's
right. If you have a mostly young group you're going to, you want to get their text. You want to be able to get their phone number to text them, really, and not their email as much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Where do you see now? Now I get I get the text for getting people out to an event. I get them to take a political action or something like that. How do you raise funds with a text? Yeah,
definitely fundraising. I believe it's a very untapped market when it comes to texting, and really the whole point and why we incorporated that within our platform was to give the average voter, a way to donate a few dollars, because even if you donate $5 or $10, you're still invested in that cause or campaign. So one quick example, we had a nonprofit convention we did the texting for a couple of weeks ago, and by simply, from the stage, just asking people at the beginning, to text in the keyword to the number, and right away, the opt-ins increased, tenfold just from the podium asking that. Right. But then also during the height of that event and the emotion, you're giving people an easy way to donate. So by simply saying, text, for this example, text HOPE to 53445 and, give a few dollars. We can't do it without you. I mean, they saw their donations go up largely just from that, from asking from the podium. So if you don't ask, you're not going to get the donations. And talking to the director afterwards, she's like, whoa, I guess, she was surprised that people donated. And she's like, well, I guess it doesn't hurt to ask. And I'm like, yeah, you got to ask people.
Yeah, you got to ask, yeah.
At the moment,
you make a good point about, I used to manage congressional campaigns, and one of the things that they told us to do, and we did do, was even to get a volunteer to give $1. And we wouldn't cash it. We just put it by the little card, with their information. The point was to get them invested. If somebody donates to something, they're much more likely to volunteer for it or feel invested, feel like they're a stakeholder.
Exactly.
And so I think these small donations is a great way to get people involved, particularly younger people, and to get the bigger donations down the road. I mean, it's an excellent idea. It's money. It's found money, because you're talking about, a lot of your charities are worried about having just old people. Now, I don't think they should worry about it so much, because there's always going to be new old people, but some people tend to be worried about that, and they want to involve newer people. I think texting is the way to go. I think often with a contest, too. I mean, you're talking about getting to meet lunch with it George Clooney or Obama, or it could be whoever you like. People love those opportunities.
Incentives are always great. Yeah, people buy into that. So, and just giving people the opportunity to do it. And, we got a lot of small dollar donations, from this event, but also we had one donation that was $2,500. And why?
Oh, wow.
Because at the height of the emotion of the event, you're giving people an easy way to donate. You're sending them a text right then, they click on a link, they donate. And so while they're in the moment and feeling good about the cause, they're able to take action right then.
So it's not it's not like a set one necessarily. Like sometimes you think, I remember when there was that thing in Asia, the tsunami. Was everything $10 or $5? So you're saying you can give any amount you want in your text when you go to the
definitely. Yeah, any whole dollar amount. So there's buttons with set amounts, $5, $10, $20, $100, or you can just put a custom amount. So any whole dollar amount, you can donate. And like you said, the whole point of giving a small dollar donation, you're getting more people to be invested and feel tied to that cause or that candidate.
You talk about incentives. Other than the lunches that are quite popular, or going to the inauguration tickets, or what are some of the other ones you've heard of?
Yeah, I mean, for events, obviously it's great, or you can just have a general giveaway. Sign up for our text alerts and you receive a pocket constitution, or you're
Right.
entered to win a drawing, or if you donate a certain amount, then you get X prize or X gift. But also, we had an event in Houston last fall, and they used the texting to promote the vendors by saying, hey, opt in. We're going to be giving away different prizes throughout the day. And like I mentioned, through our tool, you can pick random winners, send them a text,
Right.
and then they're directed to go to that booth, and it helped promote that booth. And it's actually
when
that
those
vendor
vendors,
prize.
I mean, that's how you're making your money. Those vendors have to be happy. If they're not happy, say it's a political conference, so it doesn't matter, or it could be any kind of conference. If those vendors aren't happy, then they're the ones subsidizing everything, really. So you're making them happier, so you're helping all the groups, So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, we've had vendors with this last event where the coordinator used it as advertising and asked some vendors, do you want to pay to have a text sent out to people just promoting you? And so that way they had 6 different vendors that paid a certain amount to have a text sent out to 900 people just promoting them. And so it was another form of advertising as well during the event.
Right.
The different vendors took advantage of.
Well, I like the idea of leveraging. You're finding another way to reach people. And you're there, and you're giving them a good experience too. It shows kind of a professionalism too. I think that's good. People say, "Oh, these people really have their act together. They're sending me, direct mail so old school. I mean, it's good, but text is like, they're really up to date. These are advanced people. They know what they're doing."
Definitely, and it's speaking of direct mail, it's a great way to refute misinformation. So let's say the opposition sends a direct mail piece that's slanderous or whatnot. You can easily counter that. Instead of drafting another direct mail piece or another radio ad or something, you can easily send a text right after that hit piece goes out with a link to the correct information, and you can refute misinformation as quickly as it's spread.
That's great.
So
I hadn't thought about
the timeliness
that.
of it. Yeah, definitely. So, the timeliness of it is critical with texting because it's so quick and you can refute misinformation on the spot. Yep, and that's great for campaigns, obviously, and and the other aspects, get out the vote. It's critical for that. You're reminding people to get out to the polls or to do their vote by mail or whatever it is. It's just a quick way to get people to take action.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's what all campaigns try to do is get that absentee vote in. It's locked up. That's a big part of any campaign. Now let's talk about charities also, because they can benefit from these as well. What do you see as far as, is there growth in that, or is this more limited to maybe charities that are more have a political? A lot of groups like environmental groups might be an example, or they have they also have a political as well as their what I'm talking about. Do you see growth in that area too?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, any organization that has supporters that they want to inform that also they need to fundraise from, any organization can benefit from texting because you're achieving those same goals. Similar to a campaign where you're depending on fundraising and also information. But, any nonprofit, whether small or large, it doesn't have to be political. We have a local nature center who is looking at texting, but then we also have a local pro-life group here in Utah that uses, texting. And so any nonprofit that has to fundraise and has to keep supporters engaged, it's highly effective for that type of organization.
Where do you see texting changing over the next, what the article has changed, the attitudes have changed a huge amount in the last 5 or 6 years. Just 3 or 4 years ago, even with a great incentive like pro football tickets wasn't enough for people to give you their telephone number. Now people are very willing. It's kind of a change. What do you see it changing in the next few years?
I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger. It's kind of like how email was when email first came out, and now email's so saturated. Like you said, people going to old school, paper, just to have something different. So I believe texting, it's on the verge of really, blowing up, especially with well, in a good way, especially on the right.
I think you're right. I think you're right, and I agree with you since liberals started, but I think that there's excluding people over 70. I mean, and most of those people even text nowadays. So I prefer a text. It's an interesting thing. I did a podcast earlier it was kind of on a different. It was on poker and fundraising. So it was a different kind of podcast. So I did an experiment. I texted a bunch of people who would only be interested in that one, not in what we're talking about, for instance. And then I emailed, and the text people were much more responsive. I kind of knew this, but it just kind of proved my point. Is that email people overlook an email quite often. It's interesting. Messenger on Facebook, for instance, not everybody pays attention to that. Maybe not even everybody has it. Who knows? But text, you always get great response rate from that. I mean, usually within a few minutes.
Oh,
that's what I found.
Yeah, I mean, the stats bear it out. I mean, 98% read rate, but also the average time it takes to read the text is 3 minutes, whereas email is 3 days.
Well, yeah, they say that the half rate, depending when you send your email out, but it's still much quicker than direct mail, obviously. But you're talking probably average person's 5 or 6 hours. I don't know, but it depends when you send it. If you send it at 2 in the morning, it's going to be more probably. But
well, and that's one thing with texting as well. There's regulations in place, and one of those is you can't send mass texts during the middle of the night, and really that kind of proves the effectiveness of it, because otherwise, if nobody was reading them, why would it matter if you send it at 2 a.m.? But there's regulations from the FCC that say you can't do that, and primarily because they are read, because it's such a direct mode of communication.
Well, you always get that bing, and
it's like Pavlov's dog,
Yeah.
Yep, it totally is. I mean, it's a little sad if you think about it. We're all glued to our phones, but you know what? That's the way the world is, and it's people are glued to their phones. Might as well utilize that and use texting to get a message across.
Well, I mean, the advantage of texting, I almost never get a negative text. You know what I'm saying? I occasionally on my cell phone even get I don't know, some contest or some telemarketing thing. Not that often, but but text, you don't. So I think people have the very favorable impression of text. Now, let me ask you this: do you get any people angry or something? Do you ever find any backlash? Oh, you shouldn't be texting me, or not too much. Mainly because, like I said, the FCC regulates it pretty heavily. You can't spam people, or at least you're not spamming. They signed up. They signed up. They kind of look forward to getting it. They can change it, so they expect it because they willingly signed up. So it's not like that helps you.
Yeah.
Your industry hasn't been tainted. Obviously telemarketing has been.
Yeah, and we have required messaging that has to be on every message that says, how many messages to expect, no more than 10 per month, for example. And then also the instructions, text stop to stop, help for help. So people know, okay, I'm not going to get spammed because I can't, and I can expect 10 messages. If I want to stop, if it's really bugging me, I just text stop and I'm out. And so it's really a cleaner list because people are reading them because they can easily opt out. But people have to choose to be opted in, and there's ways to do that. If people are taking a poll or they're donating, they're also opting in. But then again, they can easily get out if they need to. So yeah, we don't find too many people angry because for the most part they know what they're getting into. And,
well, let me ask you one last question here. Let's say somebody was listening. They run some nonprofit, let's say. Or they're a candidate. It doesn't really matter. How would they, contact you to kind of ask you, what they need to do to set up something like this?
Yeah, definitely. I would just have them, use texting. So get out your phone and text the word raindrop to 53445. So raindrop, and the number is 53445, and then you'll receive a reply message with a link to get more information, and we'll contact you.
I'm glad you explained it. See, I'm 53, and I found that confusing. See, I saw that text raindrop. I said, what? I do. That's why I called you. I said, oh, okay, I got that. See, that's like an age thing. Even the most clueless 20-year-old I work with knows so much more than me on this stuff.
Oh, and you know what? It's not an age thing. I mean, my wife, I used to kid all the time that she was so old school. This is back when she was like 30. Like, she didn't have an email address forever. Like, she was very old school. Okay. But now she's hooked on texting just because it's simpler to communicate. So, yeah, it's not an age thing necessarily. But
well, I'll tell you a funny story about texting was that when that started, I said, I'll never do texting. I'm not like what you call the first group, that the early adopters. And I said, and then I finally did it, and I said, oh, I prefer this.
Sometimes you don't want to talk to somebody. It's easier to send a message.
Well, you also have a physical record, Yeah,
exactly.
Nice. And that's nice, too. Well, Mike, I really enjoyed it. I recommend this. I think it is going to grow. I think it's a great way to stand out. It's another way to raise funds. It's another way to also bond with people, connect with them. And it's all interrelated. When we do not everything like in a direct mail program, makes money. For instance, I do a lot of museum fundraising, and I look for opportunities to connect with people without even really trying to raise funds. I'll give you an example. Like we might send a hat to somebody, and the goal is to send it quickly so that they're impressed. Now, we might have a reply envelope, and we make a little money back, perhaps. But the goal is just to impress them. And and I think when you do texting, you do it right. You have some incentives, polling, the kind of things that people like. It's a great way to connect with people. And since most people aren't doing it, you have a decided edge right now if you get in early.
Definitely, yeah. That's a great point, and that's what we help with as well as crafting a campaign and giving you the tips and tricks of what works and what you should do. And if you utilize the texting, actually put forth the effort, it does return. It does work. But you have to be willing to use it, push out that keyword and get people opted in and make it work.
Hey, have you, just one last question, have you ever been to St. George, to the southwest part of your state?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, I've been there several times. I love hiking there. I love hiking.
Oh, great.
They have this fitness place, and I think Utah is the only state in the country I've really been physically fit in. Lost a lot of weight.
Nice.
Okay.
There's plenty of outdoor activities here, and
beautiful hiking. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So no, that's awesome. Yep, nice place.
Well, great.
Down there.
Well, excellent. Good talking to you. Look forward to seeing you again. And hey, Donor Doctor listeners, you might consider this. I think it's a great idea. Texting is a new technology. Good idea to take advantage of it. Till next time, this is the Donor Doctor signing out. Thanks, Mike Brown. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.